Hey folks, welcome to Only Best Fantasy Novels. My name is Robin, and today I want to pitch my 2 cents into the ring about that book that everyone on YouTube is talking about. I think you know which. Anyway, what is it about? It picks up immediately after the fourth in the series, Rhythm of War, and it's essentially the story of the 10 days leading up to the final conflict between Honor and Odium, the forces of Honor and the forces of Odium, and it's a scramble because now because of the way that things are worded, it's basically all out war to get as much as can be grabbed before the contest of champions. So in that vein, everyone sets out to do their own thing, and everyone ends up going on some pretty amazing character journeys as a result. And yeah, so like if you're living under a rock and you're unfamiliar with what's going on with this series, this wraps up the first half of the Stormlight Archive. The first arc, there's going to be an in-year, 10-year gap that takes place over the next 6 years in our time. So the next book in the Stormlight Archive will be roughly 2030, and it will start a whole new arc, a whole new story with a different batch of characters. So that's one of the reasons why everyone is so hyped for this book, because it is an ending of sorts, and at the same time it's a pivot point for the whole series as a whole. So with that, like, you could expect some pretty massive things to happen with the characters, and oh boy, does that happen. So, like, one of my favorite things about this series is just the way that each book is a complete character arc, journey, whatever you want to call it, and that's absolutely the case with this book. Like in Kaladin's case, he sets out on a journey to really delve deeper into the whole mental health aspect of the story, and what I've found fascinating about his story in particular is that now that he's approaching things from this kind of perspective, the way he looks at problems, the way he addresses problems, and the way that he thinks of solutions and everything like that is completely different from anything we've seen in the series so far. Like his first instinct, like as much as he's trained as a soldier, that's not the way he approaches problems over the course of this book, and that approach does have massive ramifications for how his particular story culminates on his journey with Set to cleanse Shinovar, or to follow Set on his journey to cleanse Shinovar. And speaking of Set, this is very much his book. We get Set's backstory, which it was one of the most boring parts of this book for me. Like, Set's backstory just really isn't that interesting. But we did get, like, it did ramp up quite a lot of tension and a lot of, well, not a lot, but a fair bit of tension and mystery as it progressed, because you have Set's thoughts and feelings on what the situation is, but it's clear that it wasn't quite what we think, because what we were seeing matched nothing that, like, we've been told to expect in this world before, and that led to a very interesting place. Set as a character, his story is very intertwined with Kaladin, as you can expect, and I think out of everyone in this book, he probably had the most dramatic character journey of any of them, I should say. Like, just where he starts his book and where he ends is two dramatically different places, and not just like in terms of like the plot, but also in terms of who he is as a person. And speaking of who they are as a person, let's touch on Shalin. Like, they're given how Shalin's story has progressed over the last 4 books. Like, there are certain things that were expected to happen in this book, and they very much did. Like, you did expect her to come to a point where she has to essentially confront her full past, everything that she's being protected from by her different personalities. And honestly, maybe it's because I simply don't know much about the struggle that she deals with, that's portrayed in here, but the way that that entire thing climaxes, and the spot that she finds herself in, and how she's going to be progressing, like moving forward, or how she's going to where we find her at the end of this book, I should say. It's interesting. It's interesting. It's not like the neat wrap up you would think, but I found it an extremely realistic in what it does. And then we have my favorite character, Dalinar, and honestly, I don't know why I didn't guess how his particular journey was going to play out. Like literally everything about his story, when I think back on it, like it was building towards the direction that his story heads. Like it should have been obvious, honestly, but at the same, like I wasn't prepared for it. So like that initial reveal was cool, and then you just see the journey to get there, and wow, like that guy. That in terms of events, he might be the single most pivotal. His actions might be the single most pivotal. His actions might be the single most pivotal moment, or whatever you want to call it, since the actual shattering of Adonalsium. Like it's completely wild with the direction that his story heads in. I don't think anyone was prepared for it, and the funny thing is that this is not the first time Sanderson pulls something like this. So you would think we'd be prepared, but no, it's absolutely a massive gut punch. And what I like about this is that once, like this is the second time he's pulled two particular scenarios in the way that that story plays out, but the results this time are so drastically different. Because the first time around, like we see. Yeah, anyway, I won't get into that. You know, if you're watching this video, you've probably read this book and you know exactly what I mean. But yeah, in addition to that, like one other thing that I found fascinating about this book is that it sets up a lot of the other characters who are going to play a role in the story moving forward. It positions them. You can tell that events are they're kind of being prepped and positioned and placed into situations where their actions and their choices will set them up to be the driving force for how things proceed from here. And like it's very interesting. There was one thread in particular I thought, like, okay, that this guy's clearly being prepped for something, so he'll probably be in the next arc. No, it happened right in this book, and I was not ready. Like everyone expected a massive Sander launch, and that's exactly what we got, in just some crazy ways. But yeah, in terms of the overall book, like the writing, honestly, I think the first part was a pretty slow, but at the same time, a bit of a slowdown makes sense because this is immediately following the events of Rhythm of War. Like everyone kind of had to take stock of where they are and how to proceed, how best to proceed over these next critical 10 days. So a bit of a slowdown, as much as it was necessary to the story. It was a bit of a slog to read through, but when things started going from there, the amazing thing is that, for one, Sanderson plotted this book so well that for me it never felt slow. Like even during the parts that I really didn't enjoy, like Seth's backstory and so, like there was just so much action and mystery and tension and everything throughout the story, and just some fascinating concepts and ideas that Sanderson plays with throughout this entire story. Like it kept you engaged, it kept you interested to see where things going on, where things were going to head. And speaking of the concepts that he delves into, like one of the big ones is obviously mental health, but there's so many other different things. Like there's how perspective affects how you think of what you think. He re-examines like everything he's touched on over the course of this series. Honor, duty, all sacrifice, all these things. He re-examines them and takes a different look, a hard look, and points out some of the inherent flaws and some of the inherent biases and all these things regarding all of this. Like, it's crazy. And One of the other things that was a bit surprising to see, given Sanderson's staunch religious views, was he puts an emphatic foot down when it comes to representation in this book. And not only did he put it down, but he went the whole gamut. Like, there's a character in here who identifies as neither male nor female. There's an openly gay pair of characters. There's there's one who lives as a man. These kind of things, like he went all out. Like, he included everything here. They were included in ways that some of them were, I think one or two of them, they happened in ways that were relevant to the story. Like, so it wasn't like it was ham-fisted, or it wasn't like political or whatever. It was just like, okay, this character wants to do this thing. What's their barrier? Or what's their interest? This aspect of them is there. So it was, for me, like, I would think it was well handled. But yeah, like, this is the first time I think we've seen, we've seen anything like this from Sanderson. So I can see why he's saying, like, oh, this is his most, this is the book, like, he takes some big swings, because just on that regard alone, I'm fairly sure he's going to irritate a certain subsection of his fan base, but whatever. And yeah, like, this book, for me, the main thing is that this book delivers on the promise. Like, we went into this expecting a pretty epic finale, and the finale was epic. Like, the story that Sanderson has been telling to date, and when I say it's the story, not just Starlight Archive, the entire Cosmere, his entire magnum opus, you can say. Like, everything has been leading to this point, and with what happens in this book, things are never going to be the same again. Like, it's going to be incredible to see where things go from here. And yeah, like, needless to say, I enjoyed the heck out of this. Yeah, what else can I say? Like, if you're watching this video, especially to this point in it, drop a comment, let me know how much you like this book, what you thought, whatever. And yeah, if you've made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.